Hi everyone, thank you for joining us for our Ladies Fund Masterclass series, where we are featuring some of our Rockstar LF VIP member in this educational platform. Do join our LF VIP membership, where we are accepting applications for physical members currently. Next Wednesday, 27th May 2020, we resume our Zoom. On Wednesday, we wear Pink Virtual Series. Tonight we feature Rukhsana Narejo, Head of Treasury, Sindh Bank. She will be talking about COVID-19 Finance 101. Welcome, Rukhsana.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Um, I'm amazed and grateful to Tara, first of all, that she has given me this opportunity. Also, the basic aim behind this program is increase awareness about how the virus is actually affecting our daily lives on the finance perspective, because we have been talking about the effect as psychological health on the mental health a lot, but the worst effect of a virus has been on the finance. And before I start talking about it formally, I would take a moment to express uh, deep sorrow about what has happened today, because for Pakistan, we are already going through a tough time. I mean, the whole world is going through tough time. It's just not Pakistan. But the incidence of what happened in afternoon today has shaken us all again, because more than 100 people have lost their lives in this aircraft crash, and we know so many people. We are connected to some of them through our working environment or through our families, and we have been hearing their loss since afternoon. It has been indeed a very shocking and saddening moment for entire country. Let's pray for departed souls. Also, let's pray that all those who are in the hospitals can regain their health as quickly as possible. Amen. So, what I have done is that in order to cover how the virus is actually affecting our lives, I have tried to divide my talk in three sections. First of all, I would talk about what's happening in the world. Then I'll come to what's happening in Pakistan. Then we will talk about how it's all going to affect our lives, and how or what steps can we do in order to have some sense of normal life, also some kind of security, because our personal finance, when we talk about the finance of the world, when we talk about the finance of the world, our personal finances, our personal investments are all affected because whatever is happening in the world and whatever is happening in Pakistan. So let's start with how what are the what's the situation in the whole world, what's the situation of economic and investment markets all over the world, before I go to Pakistan and talk about where we stand right now. So the coronavirus actually started in widespread was I think first weeks of year 2020, though the virus started in December or November of 2019, but obviously those were very rare cases. By that time, nobody knew, and even like start of 2020, the whole world was taking it very lightly. Uh, I'm like so many of the experts, so many of the scientists. We kept on hearing about from them on the Bloomberg, on the Fox magazine, on CNBC, and everything. Where initially we thought that maybe we will be able to contain the spread of virus by closing the borders, by closing our public spaces, or by following the lockdown. Yes, to some extent, all these measures helped, but obviously, when you shut down the normal pace of life, it gives a sense of uncertainty and insecurity to the public, to the markets, and the investment and finance markets. They don't like the uncertainty, though uncertainty is a time where the investors make money is only made in the volatile and uncertain times, not in smooth times, because during the smooth times earnings are pretty much expected, though they go as per the expectations, and there are nothing extraordinary happening. So though the best money is supposed expected to be made when when markets are volatile, when markets are uncertain, but these are very extraordinary times. This is just not investment in finance markets we are talking about. Right now, we are talking about actually giving up our normal pace of life. I wouldn't take this time as making money. Like I will, I'll summarize a famous quote by Jack Ma of Alibaba, who has said that for the business owners and entrepreneurs, this is not the time to make money. Rather, this is time to survive. And the same quote applies for obviously all over the world, the individuals and everything. So, coming back to what's happening in the world right now, the business owners, entrepreneurs, the finance markets are increasingly uncertain about how things are going to go ahead from here. What would be the pace of employment? Because I'll quote here. Uh, we are right now witnessing highest level of unemployment since Great Depression, and this highest level of unemployment is not only in USA. We are not talking about USA right now. We are talking about entire world. The world right now is at its worst financial condition because people have lost their jobs. The businesses have closed. Spending power has gone. This was more so obvious from what's happening in the oil markets. If you're part of finance market or if you're part of the investment market, one of the very few important indicators which you also follow is oil markets, because these oil markets, they affect the cost of doing business, they affect the cost of living, they affect air travel, they affect almost everything. So what has happened, that the oil prices, WTI, that is a index which trades in the international markets, was at the start of 2020 at $60, but it actually went down and touched a low of minus 40 around mid-April. Now, minus 40 is a number which I wouldn't give us some weightage to it, because that was totally a technical number. What has happened, because that day contract was expiring and whoever was purchasing the contract was supposed to take up that inventory. So no, I wouldn't give much weightage to negative oil prices. But yes, they showed us, or the negative price was more indicator of what is going to happen going forward in coming days and coming months about demand and supply factors. Finance markets actually are they consist the companies who produce, who supply their products all over the world. Now these companies are traded on the stock markets of all around the world, and when the basic raw material of a product actually declines or increases, the share prices of those companies are also affected. Uh, One of the face of this pandemic, how it affected the business, could be seen in the share price of Zoom. It was nothing before the start of pandemic, but if you look at it right now, its net worth is around $50 billion, and that is highest. That is like higher than five international airlines combined, and I'm like, this was the huge turnaround of the sentiment. I'll come back to it again, but I'll tell you what's happening in the finance markets and how the economies are getting affected. Large airline companies have actually gone bankrupt because of the closure of air travel, and because of the fear and uncertainty that maybe the normalcy of life won't be back till 2023. At that Till that time, we'll keep on seeing the aftershocks of this virus. So coming back to finance and coming back to the business and coming back to the entrepreneurs, uh, right now this virus has actually affected business, the economies, the finance market in a worse way. But it has also given a new face. I mean, it has given an opportunity to all these entrepreneurs to have a new face of their business, because increasingly what we are seeing is that online businesses are coming up. They are actually making their space pretty fast. We are, I think, if you look at the circumstances, if you look at the cost of doing business, I think the brick and mortar model is going to be unsustainable. I mean, like, in near future, increasingly the entrepreneurs and the business owners will try to operate more from their homes. There was a survey. I'm not sure about the actual number of people who are ready to work from home, but the survey said that more than 50% employees are willing, and they actually want to work from home. So this actually, obviously, now again, the way, as I said earlier, that finance and economies and the international markets, the investment markets are very, very highly connected with the pace of life. Because as the pace of life is normal, there's more spending, there's more demand of the products, and that is how the investment markets operate. That is how the companies earn the money, and that is how they pay their shareholder. But when, obviously, the pace of life stops, those companies who are dependent on the spending, who are dependent on doing their business through physical interaction, they actually stop making money, and that affects the markets in a broader perspective. Um, I'm like, these are very unprecedented times. Obviously, the world, or none of us alive, at least who are, I think, below maybe 100 years. If somebody is, I think, aged more than 100 years, maybe he or she will remember Spanish flu and the Great Depression. But none of us who are alive at the moment would remember what was in Great Depression and Spanish flu. So right now, this is once in a lifetime or once in a century crisis which we are passing through, and obviously these are once in a lifetime financial crisis which we are passing through in the world. Um, so, like, this, if we come about the world, the economies, they are increasingly interconnected, and Pakistan is part of emerging economies. Countries like Pakistan, they depend on debt, borrowing from multilateral and bilateral agencies, and that is called external debt. Uh, what is happening in the world will, I'll just give an example about how the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank and G20 countries are right now thinking. They have actually started working on a model where they are giving debt waivers, the loan waivers, to the poor countries, to developing economies, so that these countries are able to take care of the worst economic situation of their country, and they don't have added burden of international debt. In this regard, obviously, the G20 countries have already signed the agreement that they'll be giving the waivers. But I was just following up the news on the Bloomberg, which says that the waivers and the delay won't be the end of it. If the world wants to help emerging economies, they would have to actually offer the haircut on the loans to these countries. Now, this has never, I think, happened in the decades. If these countries are actually thinking about emerging economies on this day, it means there's something very, very serious, and uh, I think we shouldn't actually expect that the markets will be normal, or the uncertainty will be gone in the near future. I think even if the markets, or the investment markets, or the finance markets, even if they recover in the short term, I think the volatility will remain in the long term, and I don't think the normal life pattern or the normal markets trading patterns or the GDP growth or unemployment or inflation would return to a normal level till next few years. So we'll keep on seeing the aftershocks. The virus has been is going to become, I think, part of our lives. Hopefully there will be vaccine soon, but I think our behavior will get used to it, and we'll try to make best of it. Now I'll come to Pakistan right now. What's happening in the Pakistan? Pakistan is a country. We are known as a emerging economy. Our economic condition, even before this pandemic, was not good. We were mainly surviving on borrowings from external agencies. Yes, obviously there were a lot of measures taken by the government. There were measures which made our economy a bit more better in last 2 years, but still we were on the shaky grounds. We were trying to gain our lost confidence of last few years, and this pandemic has actually taken its toll on our markets. So it's a country. We are Pakistan is like very much dependent on international markets because there are two sources of revenues. There are two sources of dollar flows through which we pay our international debt. That is our exports and remittances. Now, most of our exports they are actually distinct. They actually go towards USA and Europe, and these are the markets which are worst affected. And remittances, we earn most of 75%. Majority of remittance comes from the Gulf countries, and Gulf countries are actually right now equally affected as USA and Europe. I'll just quote an example over here. A few days back, a survey of Dubai bills was conducted, which has been quoted by Bloomberg again. The survey was conducted in order to know the sentiment, in order to see how the Dubai businessman, the entrepreneur, thinks what is going to happen in the way forward. So, two-thirds of the businessmen expect um, two-thirds of the business expect to close their doors in coming months, even after opening up the doors to business, even after opening the normal business activity. These businesses think it's going to be increasingly difficult to earn same kind of revenues because people are going to be very much uh, the people are going to be uncertain. People are going to be cautious. So now, if we are dependent on GCC, if we are dependent on international markets for our exports and all revenues and borrowing and everything, if they are affected, it means uh, it's it's going to spiral down to our country. And Pakistan right now, even before as I said earlier, even before the virus, we were not in a good shape. I'm going to quote over here a study, 2010 study conducted by a World Bank chief economist, where she has said that all those economies who have public debt to GDP ratio more than 90% will have lower growth anyway. Now she's talking about this lower growth in the normal circumstances. She's the normal times, but right now we are in extraordinary times. Our public debt to GDP ratio is above 90% at this moment, and our international debt to GDP ratio is at 30%, which is again very critical. Our economy, I would say, then coming back to the, the summary of all these numbers is that Pakistan is a country and economic numbers doesn't really stand on firm ground right now. Yes, Alhamdulillah, we are a resilient nation. We are a resilient market. We'll come out of it. I'm not saying that it's end of it. I'm just trying to give you where do we stand and how what the numbers are showing us, and what is the current state of our economy. Because right now our fiscal deficit to GDP ratio is expected to be at around 10%. And obviously, this number was expected to be around contained around 5%, below 5% before this pandemic has hit us. But with this pandemic and with 1.2 trillion stimulus package, which was announced by Prime Minister of Pakistan, plus additional measures, our fiscal deficit to GDP ratio is actually expected to increase to 10%. Why I'm quoting this number? This number actually gives you a sense of the fiscal space with the government. Fiscal deficit is actually driven by your total revenues minus your total expenses. Obviously, your expenses are higher, revenues is lower, so that converts into a deficit. Now you need to finance this deficit from the market, from the banks, from the investors from international markets. So obviously, when the debt keeps on increasing, it means more of the government revenue in coming years is also going to pay off the interest cost of that debt. It means government will have lower fiscal space to spend on health, lower fiscal space to spend on education. And here I'll quote again that education and health spending of our country is one of the lowest in the world. Most of our revenues, most of our finances, they go into financing interest costs. Not much is left with the government to spend on public sector health initiatives or education initiatives. Growth of a country is very much dependent on public sector spending as well, which is called PSDP. These PSDPs actually major projects or public spending taken by government in order to provide infrastructure for the business to open their factories, to bring out new business in the country. But obviously, we have seen in last few years, even PSDP has been PSDP was low this year in comparison to what it was the last year. But under what is happening right now on the pandemic front, that number has actually is gone down further. So and I'll like quote a very interesting number over here again, which is not interesting at all. This is a sad number. Pakistan's GDP growth, Pakistan's economy is going to contract for the first time since 1951, and we are expected to contract by anywhere between 2% to 6%. There are various surveys. Government and the World Bank has been quoting around minus 1.5 to 2%, but there was a recent survey by a business school who have said that actually economy may contract by more than 5%, which I think which was very much in line with what's happening on the international economies, because from USA to England, UK to France to Italy, every country, if you come across, they are actually expected to contract by around anywhere around 10%. So this is same for Pakistan. So and if you look at our GDP number, if you look at our per capita income, our GDP has been coming down. We have been actually our GDP number as a total has come down from 303 billion to right now at 283 billion, which is showing the shrinking economy, shrinking capacity of the country to grow. And this pandemic is going to affect unemployment rate. Now, uh, like there has been various statements by central banks all around the world, which have said that interest rates in a country before this pandemic used to fight inflation. It used to be a equation or formula between inflation and interest rate. But right now, what we have been hearing that in order to come out of the crisis, in order to support economies, interest rates are going to be more targeting the unemployment rate. Now, why this number? Why this is a good statement for countries which are who like these are the developed countries we are talking about, not Pakistan, because as per our governor, our interest rates will keep on following the inflation number. He doesn't aim to give up on the interest rate and inflation equation anytime soon. But increasingly, the central banks all around the world, they are more going to target about the unemployment. Now, why targeting unemployment is a better thought process? Because when you bring down the interest rates, you bring down the cost of doing business for entrepreneurs, for factories, and you give them the more space to expand. And our economy is dependent on large scale manufacturing, and we export. We are trying to increase our exports in order to become more resilient to international shocks. So when you bring down the interest rates, you give more space to business to operate on the new grounds, to expand, to launch more products, and to hire more people. Actually, by bringing down interest rates indirectly, you are encouraging the business owners, entrepreneurs to hire more people. That is the reason economies all around the world are increasingly talking about from now on targeting the unemployment rate rather than the inflation rate. If like we have talked about quite a few things about how Pakistan is doing right now, and what the number is looking at. I'll now come to another part of my talk, that is the world after COVID-19, the economies, finance, and our life. How the pandemic is going to affect everything we do from the finance, investment, and saving perspective. So, as I already said, the pandemic has actually wiped out the international economies. The pandemic has actually thrown economies into deep depression. That is first time since Great Depression. What we are expected to see increasingly in coming times, and this has been quoted by various economists and various experts in the on the markets, on the countries, also the donor agencies, is that people are increasingly going to be more cautious. They are going to be they're going to be more inclined towards saving. It means like the spending power has already been curtailed of the retailers, but if they do get back to normal pattern of life, they'll try to save maximum in order to have enough into their pockets to fight any other kind of uncertain scenario. Because we do agree that this is once in a century what has happened right now, but uncertainties of the life, I mean, like people losing job and being hit by a crisis is going to be there even if the pandemic is gone. So what this has taught people is that to save more. uh, I think what we are going to do is that people are going to cut on the luxuries. They are going to cut on the travel. They are increasingly going to save more. They are going to uh, put their money into deposits. They are going to invest. That is how it is going to be, because this pandemic has actually affected our behavior. This has right like sitting at home. Uh, we have learned that yes, we can survive on our own cooked food, and we don't need to go out and eat every day. It means that we can be careful, we can save more, and we can invest more. uh, Also, I would talk about I would expect the same thing from I like from the Pakistani market as well, from the Pakistani consumer as well. I think uncertainty of the Pakistani market is going to be there. I don't think that our investment markets uh, or dollar rupee parity is going to be stable anytime soon. I think we are going to see we are going to keep on seeing volatility. Yes, the markets will increase, the currency will appreciate, but then with the onset of any new cases, with possible lockdown by the governments, we may see another volatility. We may see the stock markets coming down. We may see rupee depreciating further. We may see more unemployment, because one of the things which we have been hearing is that even though crisis may be over like very soon, and we may have already seen the bottom of stock markets and bottom of financial crisis, but we are not going to be out of it very soon. It means that we'll be faced with uncertain economic scenario for at least the next 2 years. And I'm like, this. There has been a study on the air travel, which has quoted, and they have quoted that air travel will see some form of normalcy by 2023. Now, these are the 3 years we are talking about. We are sitting in the mid by 2020. So at least 2.5 more years or 2 year more before the air travel returns to normal. Now, same is, it means uh, any kind of normal pattern of life, returning to it, feeling normal, having same patterns of life, it will take at least maybe a year. Till that time, we'll be increasingly more cautious that people may lose jobs. Uh, I mean, the virus may strike again. Till the time there's a vaccine, obviously, then this will keep on going. So I will like, if you ask me as a person from the treasury markets, because I am handling right now the investment department, and we invest into investment for the bank. So what we have seen is that it's a good time to invest in certain investment products, but it's also very important to be cautious, not to take too much risk. We need to we need to have enough in our pockets to meet our expenses for next 1 year at least. And after that, obviously, we should try to save some money, and we should try to invest. We can invest in government securities, which are open for investing to the public. All anybody can open account into a bank, and they can purchase treasury bill securities and government securities. These are very safe securities. They have a guaranteed return from government of Pakistan. You can take exposure on government if you don't want to open a direct account for the investment with the bank. You can invest with mutual funds. They have government securities funds. They have cash funds. You can earn money from there. And after that, obviously, in this time, when we don't have large public don't have a sense of certainty about their job markets. Obviously, this time, obviously, the risky investments should be avoided. What we should do is that we should try to be cautious with our way of life, with our investments, and with our spending. So I have uh, tried my best to add knowledge to my audience, and I'm available on Facebook. I'm available on LinkedIn. You can, if you guys have any queries or questions from me, I'm ready to reply. And I hope everybody is taking care of themselves, and stay safe. Stay inside your homes, and Eid Mubarak. And again, we pray for the departed souls into the today's incidents. Yes, thank you so much.